Here we go.
Hello, and welcome back to more Films Under Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Bankov, joined by our host, Maverick Drenzaria. This week we're taking a look at the film The Dark Knight, released in 2008 in North America.
Yep. But before that, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Soylent Green.
Is that this year?
The only food available in 2022. May or may not include people as an ingredient. Although that did give me the idea maybe at some point we could do a Soylent Green podcast.
I also have not seen that one.
I've seen it, but it's been a while. But it does happen in 2022, so it would be fun.
Yeah.
But, okay. So The Dark Knight, released in July 14th, 2008 in New York City, and then 4 days later in the rest of the United States, and then July 25th, a week later, it was released in the United Kingdom. And it was actually the first superhero movie to gross over $1 billion.
Really?
Yep.
Something interesting to think about real quick is this movie's placement with comic book movies.
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man 3 came out only a year before this.
Yep.
Just two very, very different movies.
Very different. Yeah. I don't remember Batman turning evil and then doing some weird dance and becoming emo.
Anyway, this is
too many villains in one movie.
So this movie, The Dark Knight, is often considered to be one of, if not the greatest superhero movie
or
ever
just
produced.
Greatest movies of all time, too.
Yeah. And, you know, without going too much into detail, it definitely deserves it.
It does, yeah. There's always a part of me that when I rewatch a movie, I really like that it will diminish somehow. But thankfully, this is one that lives up to the hype, you know.
So I know for a fact that this was the first Batman movie that I ever saw. I think it was also the first superhero movie I ever saw that I liked. Outside of maybe Spider-Man 2.
Also, another thing about this one is that before this, like, superhero movies were mostly very, like, silly or...
Yeah.
Whereas this one, they went for a darker story. And really just all the Nolan films were kind of unique at the time in that way, in that they were more, like, grounded and darker. Especially this one.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it...
Because, I mean, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, they were good, but they were still very, like, comic booky. They were very just...
Yeah, they were kind of campy. Like, it's definitely fun to watch, and the first two especially are great movies, but...
I think Spider-Man 2 is still one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man 3 is, like, ridiculous.
And then, even after this movie, apart from the, you know, edgy garbage that the DCEU put out, most comic
another
book
Man
movies...
of Steel rant.
But most comic
it's
book
safer
movies...
indoors. Anyway,
most comic book movies, especially the ones produced by Marvel, they're still pretty, you know, lighthearted and jokey.
They're very jokey, yeah.
It's like Infinity War, especially with its ending, is kind of dark. I guess you could call Thor 2 dark, but I don't want to think about that one.
They don't really try to do, like, grounded.
Yeah.
Which maybe is just because Batman doesn't really have superpowers. He relies more on like, technology and, like, his fighting skills.
And his villains don't really have superpowers for the most part either.
Well, besides Superman.
Okay, fair.
Superman, a villain. I guess if Batman to be Superman, that's the case. Christopher Nolan, of course, came back to direct this one. And it basically had the same writers and production crew of the other ones. And most of the cast in the first came back. Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, Morgan Freeman. Cillian Murphy comes back briefly.
He had a fun little cameo at the very beginning, yeah.
Although there is one cast member who is absent.
And she is immediately replaced in this movie, only to be killed off a little later.
Katie Holmes does not come back.
Yep, instead it's Maggie Gyllenhaal. So I'm going to be honest, I watched this movie almost back to back with Batman Begins.
Really?
Yes. And I still feel like Rachel is such an insignificant character. Like, she has a little bit more of a purpose in this, but she's such an insignificant character, especially in Batman Begins, that I didn't really notice the casting change until I thought about it a little bit later.
I didn't realize when I first saw these that they were supposed to be the same character. Actually, I thought that... I don't know.
So we were kind of the opposite on that.
She has more stuff to do in this one than in Batman Begins. At the very least, there's...
She at least serves a plot purpose in this one. So, in addition to the returning cast, there are a few new cast members. There's two that primarily serve as the film's main antagonists. So, we have Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, or Two-Face. He starts off as kind of a protagonist and then develops into Two-Face as the film goes on. It's a pretty standard Two-Face origin story.
What was interesting with this one? I felt while watching this, it felt like Harvey Dent was the main character of this movie, because he goes through he gets, for some reason it felt like he had more screen time than Christian Bale did in this, for one thing, and also he goes through the biggest arc in the movie.
Yeah,
great performance, by the way.
Yeah,
by Aaron Eckhart. We'll get into that.
Yeah, probably the biggest addition to the cast is Heath Ledger as the Joker.
Yep, Heath Ledger. This was one of his last performances in a movie, and he got cast as the Joker. And when it was announced, people were just like, wait, what? Are you kidding me? It was just one of those casting choices that just sounds weird on paper. It just doesn't seem like it would work at all. If you look at us what he was doing before. We knew he could act, because Brokeback Mountain and stuff, but nobody was expecting him to be cast as the Joker. But then, of course, he proved everyone wrong,
Yeah. Just an absolutely fantastic performance.
To the point where now a lot of people consider him the definitive depiction of the character.
And even, I have a very clear animated series bias. And for as much as I love Mark Hamill's Joker, and I consider it to be almost perfect, I honestly think that Heath Ledger's Joker is still the best.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I know you mentioned... when we were doing the other Batman movies, you mentioned Mark Hamill was your favorite.
I think after rewatching this, I think I'm leaning more towards Heath Ledger now.
Because for me, it's usually between Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson is my favorite. I think Jack Nicholson, I'm biased towards this because he's one of my favorite actors. But after rewatching this, Heath Ledger might be my favorite depiction, actually. Just because, because with Jack Nicholson, of course he's going to play the Joker.
Yeah.
That's an obvious casting choice. Whereas with Heath Ledger, that's such a strange choice, and yet somehow it works brilliantly. You watch him in this movie, and you don't see Heath Ledger. You see the Joker.
Exactly.
Oh, Eric Roberts is in this movie, too.
Who does he play?
The guy taking over Falcone's crime.
The Maroney.
Okay, I didn't write his name. I just called him Eric Roberts in my notes. Because he's Eric Roberts. Oh. He's made 400 movies, and this is one of them, apparently.
So the very beginning of the movie follows a plot to rob the Gotham City Bank. All the members of this plot are dressed as clowns. By dressed, I mean they have clown masks on.
And one thing I noticed, because the subtitles were on, as I was watching on Netflix, is that apparently they have the same names as the Seven Dwarves.
I think I knew that. I think I read about that somewhere. And things seem to be going well, but suddenly the members of the gang start killing one another. And it's basically revealed that through dialogue that the Joker, who hired these criminals, is promising them each larger shares of cuts if they kill a certain member.
And apparently they don't know who the Joker is.
Which, that is interesting. I don't know how you gather up all these people and convince them to do this high-stakes bank robbery where you're also going to be murdering the people helping you for a man you've never met before.
They, found each other on
Craigslist.
Craigslist, yeah. Yeah, the Joker got him off of Craigslist.
A Batman for a modern age.
I mean, it kind of is, 2008.
Yeah.
And it turns out one of these clowns is actually the Joker.
And he gets a pretty fantastic introduction once he finally takes off the mask.
He, crashes a bus into the bank.
Well, technically someone else crashes it into the bank, driving backwards and killing a man in the process.
That's right, yeah.
And also, it sounds like it wasn't the plan for the bus driver to kill that guy, it just sort of happened.
And he says, I killed the bus driver.
Yeah,
Before that
and
happens,
that's honestly fantastic because he just loads up the money, drives the bus away into a crowd of other school buses. It was all just perfectly timed like that.
We also forget, when he takes the mask off and you see his face the first time, he says, I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger.
Stranger.
Yeah, great line right there.
And definitely, up to this point, this is, the darkest version of the Joker we've ever seen,
yeah.
On TV or in live action.
Yeah, because the killing joke in the comics, that was a pretty dark one.
Yeah, and that was a pretty big influence on this movie.
Yeah, I think Heath Ledger was told to read that one before he played the part.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
And so one feature that we noticed with this Joker that's not in it's kind of in there with the Jack Nicholson Joker, but just done slightly differently, was the fact that his smile is primarily made from two scars that he has going up his face, making a Cheshire grin. I think with the Jack Nicholson one, his face just got stuck making a smile because of bad plastic surgery.
Because of he fell into the vat of chemicals.
Yeah.
Which is what happens in the comics. Whereas here, they never really tell you why.
Yeah, he has a couple fake stories prepared.
Yeah, which maybe one of them's true. You never know.
Yeah.
But he never tells the same one, so...
So it sounds like he has at least 3 of these stories planned. We hear 2 of them, and then he's about to tell the 3rd one to Batman, but he gets, I think, punched in the face before he can say it.
I don't want to hear your damn stories, clown.
And there are theories as to what actually happened, which I'll bring up once we get to the scene that most people refer to with these theories. I personally don't believe it, but it is just something interesting to think about.
Yeah, we'll get to it later. And it's a pretty good introduction to the movie, too. It really gets things off to a roll, with this just crazy bank heist,
It's definitely a very high energy start to the movie.
It's a very memorable opening, too.
Yeah. It doesn't waste any time getting you into the movie.
And considering how little those, clown masks are in the movie, and the fact that they're, associated so much with this movie just shows you how memorable that sequence is.
Yeah.
They're investigating Batman. And Gordon is, he's just been waiting for Batman to show up to the bat signal. Apparently he hasn't been showing up.
Yeah. Been too busy off doing other Batman things.
Yeah, he's been doing other Batman things.
He's been too busy renovating the Batcave.
He's been too busy going through the drive-thru to get Diet Cokes.
He probably used the Bat credit card whenever he did that, too.
Never leave the cave without it. Oh, Jesus. But anyway. And then you see Scarecrow again.
Who's leading a gang of fake Batmen to kill criminals?
And they were also making like a drug deal or something as well.
I think what was happening is he set up the drug deal and then had the fake Batmen kill the people and just take their money.
Okay.
And we get quite possibly one of the worst Batman voice performances of the whole movie when he shows up to stop it.
You made fun of this line, yeah.
Yeah, well, so he stops and ties him up, and then the criminals are like, "What are you doing? What makes us different from you?" And he goes, "I'm not wearing hockey pants."
Yep.
Just I really don't like his Batman voice, and that scene is like my least favorite time he uses the Batman voice.
It was pretty goofy, yeah. I mean, it got a laugh out of me, while I was watching it, which... It was so brief, though, that it didn't really bother me all that much.
It's like stuck with me. When I think of this movie, that inevitably just pops into my memory.
Also, this opening, there's like so much shit going on just in the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
And it almost felt like the opening to a James Bond movie before the credits start.
Yeah, I could see that happening. It's got like its own little mini plot that's kind of connected to the main plot.
Yeah. Kind of, yeah, because that's the last you see of Scarecrow. Sorry, Cillian
Until
Murphy.
the next movie.
And then we get a scene with, oh my god, damn it. Are we really going? And then we get a scene of...
In this movie, the scenes do flow a lot better than in previous ones, but I think we're just so used to previous movies, where things just happen.
So Harvey Dent is introduced. He's
got
trying to put Eric Roberts on trial because he's part of Falcone's crime syndicate. And a guy pulls a gun on him in the courtroom.
Which somehow wasn't loaded. I don't know how he messed up that badly.
That is a really stupid idea. Just not even that. Just like trying to pull a gun on someone in a courtroom.
That's the fastest way to get found guilty of whatever you're on trial for.
I mean, oh my god. Like, that scene I honestly thought was kind of ridiculous.
It was, and honestly I forgot about that scene until rewatching it, so the gun actually caught me off guard.
I wasn't sure if it was being played for laughs or what, because it felt... And it doesn't really have much to do with the main plot, aside from establishing that Harvey Dent is a district attorney.
And I think that's also the first time in the movie we see Harvey use his coin to, make a decision.
He has this obsession with flipping coins.
And he has like some special weird coin where both sides are heads.
Yep. The odds are always in his favor. And that's also the first time you see Rachel again, played by Maggie Gyllenhaal. Yep.
And so she's kind of helping him prosecute the case, and I don't remember if it's in this scene or in the next scene they have together, but it basically establishes that the two have a romantic interest in one another.
Which becomes very important later on.
Yep. 1 second, I need to turn on the lights in my room. The sun just went out here, so it's like completely dark.
Okay. Whoops. Also, something I noticed while watching this, both this time and the previous time, is that they kept saying MCU in this movie.
Were they?
Yes, they say MCU.
What were they referring to?
I think somebody says to Gordon, "What about that floodlight on top of MCU?"
It must be it's something crime unit. Maybe it's like main crime unit or something like that.
Know, but it kept making me laugh though because
yeah. I think it's didn't Iron Man 1 come out around that time?
This is the same year Iron Man came out.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So Gordon's trying to defend the presence of Batman in the city.
Yeah.
And Harvey's basically like, what the hell? We can't just have this crazy dude dressing like a bat run around and beat up every criminal in Gotham.
Probably because Harvey is Batman. But no, that does actually that does bring this like interesting kind of side by side a little bit, where Harvey's like fighting crime through the legal system,
Yeah.
whereas Batman is like fighting criminals by punching them, basically. You know. Another thing I read is that Harvey Dent, Aaron Eckhart based his performance a bit off of Robert Kennedy.
Yeah, I think I read that somewhere too, where he's trying to be like a poster child for justice almost.
Yeah, which I can kind of see.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Doesn't have the accent.
and obviously, Robert Kennedy did not get half of his face scarred and turn insane, but there was one scene I thought was funny where Morgan Freeman is having this meeting about trust funds. And Bruce fell asleep during it.
Asleep in the middle of the meeting. And we find out afterwards that both Lucius Fox and Bruce don't trust the people that they're talking to the entire time. And so they make a line that alludes to this later, where Morgan Freeman says, "Mr. Wayne didn't want you to think we were purposely wasting your time." But it really feels like he was.
Oh, yeah. I like that he just fell asleep because he was so tired from his Batman job.
I also really like Bruce and Fox's conversation during that scene. Bruce makes a comment that he'd like to be able to turn his head as Batman.
Which
that had been a problem with the suits ever since the 1989 Batman.
That's
where
true.
it was basically fused to the shoulders so no one could turn their neck.
Because in Batman Returns, he had to like rip the whole thing off just to because it's attached. But yeah,
he also so this is something interesting. It's very minor, but it does come up again. Earlier in the movie, when Batman was fighting the fake Batman, he gets attacked by like a dog at one point, like a guard dog for someone, and so he asks that the the bat armor, whatever you want to call it, is updated to survive dog attacks.
That's right. I remember this line. And then Lucius Fox, aka Morgan Freeman, aka God, like says that I can maybe get it so that you can survive cat attacks or something. Something like that. So then Harvey Dent and Rachel, they're having dinner at a restaurant. And Bruce ends up joining them. And it turns out this is the same hotel he bought in the first one.
And so he's just able to get the waiters to reorganize the tables so you can sit down and eat with Harvey and Rachel.
He like literally says, "I own the place." I love that they had a callback to that. That was so funny.
And I think he's with like a Russian ballerina, like Natasha or something like that.
Yeah. Something like
who appears for this one scene to criticize Batman and then disappears for the rest of the movie.
It's basically just there to like, show the contrast between Batman and Harvey Dent.
Yeah. And so basically Bruce and Harvey have this discussion on Batman.
There's a really important line in here.
So if I remember correctly, Harvey defends Batman a little bit, saying that we do need someone to help kind of protect the citizens of Gotham. And then he admits that, it can become a dangerous thing. And so he says the line, "You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain."
Yep.
Which not only is an incredibly famous quote.
I always forget that it's from this movie, actually.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many like memes of it.
At first, I had no idea what movie it was from for like the longest time until I saw this. And, that ties in pretty well with, Harvey's character.
Also, Bruce, he decides to help Dent by running a fundraiser for him.
Yep.
Just, he's reminding everyone he's filthy stinking rich, So meanwhile, the mob is mad because that bank was a mob bank,
Yep.
the bank that was robbed at the beginning, and all their money was stolen.
I think it was, what, 68 million?
I don't remember the exact amount, and I don't really care. So
And so, if I remember right, it's like not just one mob, it's like a collection of different mobs.
then the Joker shows up doing a fake laugh.
Yep. And it's honestly just like a great laugh. Because normally when you think of the Joker laugh, you think of something like Mark Hamill or Jack Nicholson, where it's these really over the top, loud, shrill laughs.
Like maniacal laughs. Basically.
Yeah, but then the laugh that's delivered here, it's like really slow. It's kind of diabolical. It's almost like a growl that he's doing as he enters the room.
And he also says, and I thought my jokes were bad. Which is great. And this scene's great. There's a lot that happens in it, though. But you start with, of course, the famous magic trick, you know.
Where he has a pencil disappear by shoving a dude's eye into it.
Yeah. It's gone.
Can we actually talk about that for a second? None of the other mobsters really react to that happening. They're just kind of like, oh well, he's dead. And then they all move on with their lives.
I'm sure they've seen worse stuff happen, you know.
True, but it's not like they've seen it where someone just walks in, kills a guy, tells them their plan sucks, and then leaves.
They've, like, disappeared people by, like, making them sleep with fishes' heads. I mean, yes. And he basically offers to kill, Batman.
Yeah.
He says, it's simple. We kill
the Batman.
There are so many quotable lines in this movie. That's my
yeah.
favorite thing. Mostly from the Joker, obviously.
And so at first everyone just kind of laughs at him. And they're like, yeah, whatever. If you can kill the Batman, why haven't you done it yet? And he gives the line,
if you're good at something, never do it for free.
Never do it for free.
That's a good line, yeah. Which I've quoted that before.
And then they just kind of threaten Joker. They're like, hey, we're going to kill you. And Joker leaves Joker playing card.
You forgot he had a grenade. He threatens to, like, pull a grenade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then one of the guys says, you think you can steal from us and walk away? And he says, yeah. I love that. That's so funny. Yeah. He, like, has this good, like, because that's the thing with Heath Ledger is he's terrifying, but there are also these little moments where he is funny.
Yeah. It's like this weird kind of dark humor to it.
It's even dark, like, because Jack Nicholson also had a pretty dark sense of humor, but he wasn't quite as sadistic as...
Yeah, because Jack Nicholson was a bit, not over the top, but like...
ostentatious.
Yeah.
He was, like, very deliberately showy, whereas Ledger is, like... the makeup, that's, like, one huge difference, where it looks like he just smeared it on.
Yeah. And, at one point in the movie, we do get to see him without his makeup, so we know that the character is applying all of this himself.
That's right, yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, he gives them his card, which is a Joker card, of course.
Which is kind of like what we saw at the end of Batman Begins when...
Was it the exact same card?
I don't think it was the exact same card, but...
I'd have to see them side by side, but yeah.
Yeah, that I feel like that can be excused.
Whatever. 3 years,
Yeah.
It's 3 years later.
And Joker also warns them that that Lau, the guy that basically took all the monsters' money and moved it overseas, would give up their names in a heartbeat if he was taken in by the cops.
It's also another thing that's very revealing about his character. He, like, literally does not give a shit. Like, if they had, like, shot him, he probably just went, oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, he
and
is,
so,
which maybe that's also another thing that scares the mobsters so much, is just this guy, you can tell, does not fear death.
He's so willing to do what he feels like he wants to do that he doesn't care what happens to him in the process.
He's, like, basically a nihilist. I mean, he just...
Yeah.
he just exists. He just came out of nowhere. He just exists, and you're gonna have to deal with that now. Basically.
And I feel like, and I feel like that is something that is definitely a strong point of the Heath Ledger Joker, because he's almost like the embodiment of chaos. There's no backstory to him. We don't know where he comes from. We don't know why he's doing this. He just does it.
We'll get to some more of that later, though. But anyway.
So the money that all the mobsters had that Lau moved overseas, it was like being traced with like I think some sort of like radioisotope or something like that they put on the money so that they could see where it was being moved to. But they ended up getting it out before they could even track down any of the money. And so Harvey meets with Gordon on the roof trying to summon Batman.
And then Batman shows up. Which is going to be a recurring theme, I feel. And then Batman shows up.
I mean, to be fair, that's just kind of how Batman operates in, like, every movie.
He just shows up, you know.
Things are happening and then Batman shows up. Sometimes they get better, sometimes they get worse.
And then he just disappears, too.
Exactly.
I love how he just disappears, and Dent, he looks really confused. And then Gordon says, he does that. Just because he's... And if I remember right, most of that scene was just Gordon and Dent arguing about Lau.
Yeah, and so basically Batman goes from that he needs to track down Lau, grab the money, and then come back. And so once he has all the information he needs, he dips out of the conversation.
He goes to Morgan Freeman,
who gives him the new suit, and then he travels to Hong Kong. Or I guess both of them travel to Hong Kong.
He also asked for some equipment for high-altitude jumps as well.
Yeah.
And of course, Bruce Wayne has a yacht with a bunch of women on it. I mean, what billionaire doesn't? And then we get a scene of... Oh, God damn it.
Anyway, he arrives to talk with Lau, who's the head of this other company.
I think we mentioned this scene earlier. It's the one where he...
Yeah. It says, Mr. Wayne didn't want you to think we were purposely wasting your time.
Which
and
they
Lau
are...
responds with, only accidentally.
Only accidentally, yeah. There's some... Yeah, that's a funny line right there.
And so Foxy's behind his cell phone in the building so that Batman can use echolocation to get a map of the building.
Mobsters, they think that they've killed the Joker because they got him in a garbage bag.
Yeah, like a body bag or something like that.
But then he gets out and he has a knife. He like holds it up to this one guy. He says, "Want to know how I got these scars?" And this is the first instance you get of him telling his backstory.
Yeah, and so it's a story about his father, who is a very mean drunk. One day he's going off on one of his drunken rampages, and his wife grabs a knife from the kitchen to defend herself. He didn't like that, not one bit.
Oh my god, this sounds like the plot of The Shining.
It kind of does, actually. It's suspiciously close.
Yeah.
So he ends up taking the knife from her and seeing little baby Joker in the corner. He puts the knife in the corners of his mouth and starts asking him why so serious. Which is another one of those famous Joker quotes that comes from this movie.
And then another famous quote, "Let's put a smile on that face."
Smile on that face.
Yep. Really creepy scene right there.
Yeah. And so I believe he kills the leader but keeps the other 3 gang members alive and has them fight to the death to see which one of them is going to live and be part of his gang.
And to see who can guess whether that story's bullshit or not. Because it changes over and over again, but we'll get to that eventually. Also,
so then
I was noticing around this point, there are a lot of business dealings going on in the beginning of this movie.
There are.
Including with the Joker, technically, because he's trying to make deals with the mobsters and stuff.
They're not very successful deals, but he's trying.
No, yeah. That's why he kills so many people.
And so, back in Hong Kong, Batman shows up, which I bet was a huge shock for everybody in Hong Kong and probably Gotham.
Yeah, Batman just shows up in China for no reason.
Like, I feel like that would raise some flags if Batman just shows up in a different country out of nowhere and comes back to Gotham.
Is this the first time we've seen Batman, like, outside of the United States in one of these movies?
Yeah, I think, like, Batman proper. Obviously, Bruce Wayne when he was training with the League of Shadows back in the first one, but, like, Batman, this is the first time he's been outside of the U.S.
Well, besides that scene in Batman Forever... no, I'm kidding.
I don't want to think about Batman Forever.
You will. But no, I'm kidding. And then Batman shows up and knocks out the power at Lau's place. He attacks him and his thugs. In a pretty good fight scene. Yeah, fight scenes are pretty good, like in the first one.
And the Hong Kong police are even summoned to try to fight off the Batman. Or maybe
what do you
just,
think
like,
that police
guards.
call went like?
That's a good question. I guess, do you think people in Hong Kong know who Batman is?
I'm sure they do. I mean...
But when you think about it, Batman's a very local villain, or not local villain, local vigilante.
Oh, I guess
he
operates... you meant in universe.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking of just in general.
Yeah, no, I think people in real Hong Kong know who Batman
is. There's a town in Turkey called Batman. I think that there's... Anyway.
But yeah, like, in universe, do you think that these random Hong Kong people know who Batman is?
Well, they do now. But anyway, he takes Lau with him, because he, like, uses the high jumping equipment that, Fox gave him earlier, aka Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
And gets into the plane. And they turn him over to Gordon.
And just like the Joker had said, Lau immediately offers up the information of every gangster involved.
Yeah, they managed to get 549 criminals judged at once.
Do you know how much, like, of a botched justice system would allow that kind of trial? That is an actual circus. I don't think you really try more than maybe 2 or 3 people at the same time.
Honestly, the court scene and the court scenes in this I thought were ridiculous.
Yeah, they get kind of silly, but I honestly kind of love the fact that they tried to cram every single convict into the same room.
But yeah, it really shows, like, Gotham, might want to get a better justice system. Harvey Dent is a little bit corrupt.
Yeah, only slightly.
And obviously because of this, there's a guy that warns Dent that everyone is going to come after him now.
Yeah.
And again, it was around this point I was starting to feel like Harvey Dent was the main character of this movie.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of focus put onto Harvey.
Because there was a lot less focus on Bruce Wayne in this one, I noticed.
Yeah. Batman's honestly not around too much. We get a little bit of him in the beginning. We get him in Hong Kong. And then we get him at both of the Joker encounters, and then that's basically it.
It feels like, Heath Ledger and Aaron Eckhart end up, like, really overtaking the movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then the Joker, he kills this guy and leaves a note saying, "Will the real Batman please stand up?"
Yep.
Which is that an Eminem reference?
It might
Slim
be.
Shady?
I hope so.
Is that Slim Shady?
Does the Joker listen to Eminem?
It would be funny to think so,
And then the news broadcasts a tape sent in by the Joker.
Oh god, this scene. Yeah.
Of him torturing, someone who's dressed up like Batman and trying to be his own vigilante.
Yeah, this scene is terrifying right here.
Yeah, it is an incredibly unsettling scene.
And this is also the first time you hear his actual Joker laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a very good and very scary Joker laugh.
It is, yeah.
And so after suffering that little bit of mental torment, Bruce Wayne
Not
and
as much
Alfred...
of a mental torment as Batman Forever, though, I assume.
True. After that, then Alfred and
what
Bruce.
would have been funny is if he just showed them the movie Batman Forever as a way of torture.
You don't even have to show them all of the movie. Just show them the one scene where Jim Carrey becomes the Riddler, and that's all you need.
Or maybe hook them up to the TV like they do in that movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're getting way off track. So there's a fundraiser party.
Yeah, Bruce and Alfred move on to the fundraiser.
And Bruce, of course, shows up with several women because
he's Bruce.
He's just saying, "I'm rich, fuck you."
Yeah, I think he has 3 women in this scene, which is like the most we've seen so far.
Jesus Christ. Probably the same ones from his yacht, for all we know.
Yeah. And so then, Bruce gives a bit of a speech where he makes fun of Harvey Dent's campaign for a little bit, but then,
I believe
fully
in
backs
Harvey Dent. What a great slogan.
But yeah, things are going well. They move on. Rachel's a bit mad because she thinks he's trying to patronize.
He does end up praising
Harvey.
him, though. He says that Gotham needs a hero with a face, and yeah. So he does say some nice things, but yeah, Rachel doesn't take it very well.
And then at the same time, there's kind of this other plot going on where
Gordon's doing investigating.
Yeah, because at the trial, the judge ended up finding a Joker playing card in the court case. Gordon's getting it tested for DNA, and he finds 3 traces of DNA. There's the police commissioner Loeb, Harvey Dent, and then the Judge Cirillo. And so from this kind of determines that right now the Joker is trying to target these 3 people. And
how did
this
he
is
get
immediately
those blood samples? That's
a great question.
That's really creepy to think about, actually. But anyway,
and immediately he's proven right when the Commissioner Loeb drinks poisoned whiskey or poisoned brandy.
He tries killing him.
Yeah, and then the judge explodes in a car accident. So then we're just left with Harvey.
And the Joker, he shows up at the banquet just out of nowhere with a shotgun. Because he's looking for Harvey Dent.
And I guess this is kind of trivia, but this was the first time apparently that Michael Caine had seen Heath Ledger in the full makeup and performing. And apparently Michael Caine was absolutely terrified.
He forgot
as the scene was going on. Yeah.
He forgot his lines just because he was so scared. And yeah, I can see why.
Yeah.
And this actually might have been the best scene of the movie for me.
It is a fantastic scene.
This entire scene was great. I thought where just his entrance, and then also he holds a knife up to Rachel. He tells her another story about how he got the scars. This time it's about his wife, apparently.
His wife had gotten, into some hot water with the mob. She owed him a lot of money. And when she couldn't pay up, they ended up coming in and they ended up cutting her face. And she became, super, depressed and withdrawn, and it was making him upset. And so he wanted to show her that, the scars didn't bother her at all. So he took a razor, put it in his mouth, and then he gave himself the scars. But this terrified his wife, who wouldn't even look at the Joker anymore. And then I think it's implied that he killed his wife in this story at the very end.
And then Batman shows up.
Well, okay, well, right before that, Bruce has a couple of really good scenes. So the first one is when all the commotion started, he knocks out Harvey in front of Rachel and just stuffs him in a closet. Yeah. And then while there's a panic going on, he ends up just walking to a different room in the mansion where there's, a couple getting together.
That's right, yeah.
And he opens up the side panel in the wall, and they're like, "Oh, thank God, you've got a panic room." And then he walks in and closes it. And this is apparently where he's going to, get changed into Batman.
Yeah.
He says no words to them as he's going in. It's super weird, but kind of funny to watch.
It goes by really quick too.
Yeah.
Because there's just a lot of commotion going on here.
Yeah.
In this scene. It goes by really fast. And then Batman shows up.
Yeah, and then Batman shows up.
He says,
and
"Let
so
her go." He like
yeah.
the Joker,
So
like,
Joker
says
has a hold
very
on
poor
Rachel.
choice of words and like
Yeah.
drops her out the window. And they fall out the window. And I thought this scene was great here, or they're just falling out the window.
Yeah.
And he like catches her. You know, it's very intense. Very well edited too. I don't think we've mentioned how good the editing in this movie is.
The editing is fantastic.
You know, it flows very naturally. I also noticed a lot of like use of like shaky cam during this scene too.
Yeah.
Like handheld cam, like they were trying to do it as like a documentary or something. Which I don't know if they did that as much in the first one. But it actually works here, you know, it's not overdone or anything.
Yeah, it's not like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies where, like, every single scene is shot with shaky cam.
And with lens flares. I know a lot of people make fun of the lens flares. And so, basically the Joker does not succeed with his plan to kill Harvey.
And the Joker basically just disappears.
He disappears. He kind of just disappears, you know.
Yeah.
He's like Batman in a way.
Yeah, he kind of is. Yeah, just shows up and then leaves.
He shows up, makes a huge impression, and then leaves. So Alfred, he says that Bruce might have gone too far.
Yeah. Because he kind of uses this as an example, actually kind of echoing the point that Commissioner Gordon, or I guess Lieutenant Gordon, made at the end of the last movie, where the criminals ramp up with whatever, you know, measures the police take. So now that we have Batman running around, we have someone else running around almost trying to outdo him in a way.
And it also just shows that Batman, you know, he's not perfect. You know, he's still struggling with becoming accustomed to having this as a job.
Yeah.
And it also, you know, shows that, you know, he knows he has a really tough enemy. And he needs to, like, understand how his enemy's, like, mind works, which is gonna be really hard because the Joker is random as hell. You know?
Yeah.
He basically admits
plan
in one scene, I just do things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he says, like, do I look like a guy with a plan?
Yeah, it's in a later scene, but we'll get to that. Alfred tells this story, which this becomes a recurring thing I've noticed in these movies.
Yeah.
And then Alfred tells a story. And this story in particular is about how he was in Burma and they like were looking for some stones. And there was this bandit that I think he stole the stone.
Yeah, he was stealing the jewels, but he wasn't like selling them. He wasn't using them. He wasn't decorating with them. He was basically just throwing him into like a swamp or a bog or something.
Yeah. He was just stealing them just because he could.
Yep.
And that's basically how the Joker is operating. He says,
some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yep.
Which that's another really famous line that I always forget is from this movie.
Yeah. And, you know, not to get too far ahead, but that also actually comes up later.
It does,
After the Joker gets all of his money, he sets it on fire. And so, you know, he just wants to watch it burn, basically.
Yeah. Well, but we'll get to that. That is a great scene, though. And they end up finding out the Joker wants to kill the mayor.
Yep.
Because there's this obituary that was doodled on, you know. That's another thing the Joker likes to do. He likes to doodle on things.
Yeah.
One guy has figured out that Morgan Freeman is giving money to Bruce Wayne to use for his
love this scene.
Hobby.
It's so small, but I love it. And this guy basically figures out that, hey, we're funding the Batman. We're backing all of this up. And then Morgan Freeman just goes, you know, well, he tries to basically, you know, blackmail him and get money out of him.
And then he basically scares him off of blackmailing Bruce.
Yeah, because he's like, so you're telling me that you think you work for, you know, the largest crime fighter in Gotham, you know, one of the most terrifying men, and you think you're just going to blackmail him.
Good luck.
Yeah.
That was really funny. And the face the guy makes, too, it just, oh man, that made me laugh. And at first, when I was watching this, at first I thought, wait, this scene feels a little bit out of place, but it does come back. But yeah, the commissioner, he gets killed. And there's a memorial service, but of course, things go wrong because the Joker shows up.
Yep.
But this time, he's not wearing the makeup.
And yeah, so it's really kind of like a blink and you miss it thing where just for a few seconds, you end up seeing the Joker without any makeup on.
Yeah, you briefly see Heath Ledger's real face, although he still has the scars, obviously. But yeah, he doesn't have the white makeup on and stuff. Or the green hair, either. Yeah.
Which indicates that he dyes it every single day.
He dyes his hair every... Where does this guy live? Does he just
Where does this guy buy the green hair dye?
Does he just live what I'd like to think is he just lives near like a chemical factory and just gets all the items he needs.
I was gonna say he lives by a Walmart.
Or a Walmart, yeah.
People would not look twice at a man like that going into a Walmart.
I mean, they'd be surprised Heath Ledger was there, but they wouldn't be surprised.
True.
Anyway, and you get a scene. You get a scene of Eric Roberts. He's in this loud dance club, and I thought this part was kind of funny. There's this girl, and she says, "Can't we go someplace quieter? I can't hear myself talk," or something like that. And then he says, "What makes you think I want to hear you talk?"
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
And then also, his voice in that scene sounded a little bit like Willem Dafoe when he delivered that line.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which reminds me that why hasn't there been a Batman movie where Willem Dafoe plays one of the bad guys?
It really does feel like he'd be natural for a Batman role.
They considered him for the Joker at one point, I know that.
Yeah. And so Batman goes in to grab Maroni to try and track down where the Joker might be hiding.
Before that, he puts Rachel goes to Bruce's penthouse, since apparently it's the safest place in the city, which might be a good point, because this city is in chaos right now.
Yeah,
and then you get the part and then Batman shows up. And he pushes Eric Roberts off a building and breaks some of his bones to get him to talk. Yeah, moving on. Move along. Harvey, you get some hints of Harvey being Two-Face because he interrogates this guy and flips a coin
to determine if he lives or dies. And again, it's still the coin with two heads, so no matter what, he's going to live. Harvey knows this, but Batman doesn't, and the criminal doesn't know this.
Dent might be the most optimistic man in Gotham, if that's the case. What was it that John Lennon said? There's no problems, only solutions. That's basically Harvey with his coin right there.
Yeah.
And then Batman shows up.
Yeah. And Batman's basically like, hey, this guy's a paranoid schizophrenic. You're not going to learn anything from him. And then he walks off.
And he basically tells Dent that things are up to him now.
Yeah.
You get more scenes of Alfred being encouraging.
Yep.
That's basically his function in the movie.
Yeah. Moral support, I guess.
Dent, he gives a speech before the public, and his inner politician comes out. Although, to be fair, it is a pretty good speech. It's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
Because he says at one point, the night is darkest just before the dawn, and I promise you, the dawn is coming, which, again, you're seeing the Bobby Kennedy influence right there.
Yeah.
Basically, vote Harvey Dent. But yeah, although I think before that, you mentioned the reporters got mad at him.
Yeah, for not wanting to out the Batman.
It's simple. We out the Batman.
And then at the very end of the press conference, Harvey ends up delivering the greatest plot twist in the movie. That he was Batman the whole time.
Let's see. Soylent Green is people. Bruce Willis is a ghost. They were on Earth the whole time.
Harvey Dent was Batman the whole time.
Harvey Dent was Batman the whole time. Yeah.
And so he ends up getting arrested and taken away. And Bruce is just kind of standing there like, okay.
He doesn't do anything, yeah.
Yeah.
And Rachel, she's really unhappy about this.
Yeah, since
she knows she knows Bruce is Batman. And she gives Alfred this unsealed letter.
And the letter basically states that she can never be with Bruce unless he gives up being Batman.
The end.
Yeah, how would that be as an end to the movie?
That would be quite an interesting plot twist for one thing. But
anyway, so Harvey's being taken away in a police van when suddenly the Joker shows up.
Yeah, suddenly the Joker shows up. Yeah, and there's a car chase. And the Joker uses a bazooka to blow up some police cars.
It's a pretty great car chase.
It is, yeah. It's a pretty, if I remember right, I think this is the car chase where they broke one of the only IMAX cameras in existence at the time.
I think so, yeah. Because there was I think, 4 IMAX cameras in the whole world.
And one of them broke, I think, during this scene.
Yeah, because it got run over by the Joker's van or by, the Batmobile or something. I don't remember which.
Basically, the Joker, he kidnaps Harvey Dent, and he drives a truck.
Yeah.
And he looks like he is having a lot of fun driving this truck, too.
It also just looks like Heath Ledger was having a blast during this scene.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He says, I like this job. I like it.
And the Joker ends up launching a rocket at the Batmobile.
Yeah, then Batman shows up. And the Batmobile gets destroyed, so he gets on the Batbike and continues the chase. And there are a lot of explosions in this scene, too.
Yeah.
There was a lot of fire in the first movie, and guess what? There isn't any in this one. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot of it in this one. I also like that during this scene, there's these 2 kids. They're pretending to be firing guns.
Yeah.
And then an explosion goes off, right in front of them when one of them's pointing. My finger did that? But yeah. Batman knocks the truck over, which probably killed Harvey.
Yeah. Unimportant.
Yeah, he's not the main character.
He doesn't. He's not gonna kill him. He just doesn't have to save him.
That's true. God damn it. And the Joker, he gets out and fires a machine gun. And this is a pretty memorable scene here where Batman's racing on the motorcycle right towards him, and he's saying, "Come on, I want you to do it. Hit me. Hit me."
Yeah. He's trying to get Batman to break the non-lethal code.
The whole movie is basically just him fucking with everybody.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. But Dent, he escapes.
Yep.
And he says, I got a date with a pretty upset girlfriend. There's one detail I'd like to point out, which I thought was interesting, where Gordon, he pretended to be dead to protect his family.
Oh, yeah.
Which I liked that, actually.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting detail. It shows that he, he's a really good dad.
Yeah.
And there's a nice scene where he sees his family. It gives Gordon a little more character depth, which I thought that was an improvement this had on Batman Begins. Gordon's
more of a character.
He's more fleshed out in this one than he was in the first one. He basically goes back and forth between being at his house, where his family is, and then interrogating the Joker.
Yeah.
And they've discovered the Joker is basically untraceable.
Yeah.
No DNA matches. His clothing is all custom. No fingerprints.
Where do you think he learned how to sew?
How in the... he's basically John Doe from Seven. They just have no idea who this guy is. Yeah.
Which is a very interesting backstory in the way that it's not a backstory.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost just the Joker just appeared one day.
Which is basically how he operates, too. He just appears, And Gordon, he goes to interrogate him. And I guess this is where it's revealed that Gordon is the commissioner now.
Yep.
Probably just because so many cops have died that he's the only one that they can promote.
And so after Gordon really doesn't get anywhere with the interrogation, he leaves, revealing Batman's been in the room the whole time.
Well, before we mention that, I like how the Joker is just basically trying to torment Gordon in this scene, trying to make him feel guilty for what Dent is going through. Because this whole movie, he basically is just like playing these mind games with people trying to mess with him, But it doesn't work on Gordon because he's a cop and, he doesn't fall for it. He leaves to go eat coffee, and then Batman shows up.
And he starts his interrogation by slamming the Joker's head into the table.
What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object?
I also love the line the Joker has when that happens. He's like, never hit the head first. It makes the victim feel fuzzy.
Yeah, and then he hits his hand, and he says, see?
Yeah,
that was pretty good. And then the Joker, he basically goes on this, he's again just fucking with Batman again.
Yeah.
He's talking about how we're one and the same, you complete me,
Yeah. And he makes
which
the point
he probably
that
stole from Jerry Maguire, but anyway, you complete me.
And he tries to make the point that, once the people of Gotham no longer need Batman, they're going to view him as, a villain.
It's a great monologue. I probably won't quote the whole thing, but but it's one of the most famous scenes in the movie. I mean, everybody's quoted it. He's like talking about how the Joker's like talking about how he doesn't have any rules, but Batman has one rule.
Yep, which is he's not going to kill anybody.
Yeah, which again, interesting contrast. You got the nihilist basically.
Yeah.
And you have the, I don't know what Batman classifies. I guess he's just Batman.
Yeah, he's his own moral code set. It's fine to beat up criminals, but not to kill them.
You should probably get some therapy, Bruce. But not from Dr. Crane, obviously.
No.
The part I would like to highlight, though, during the Joker's monologue, there's this one part where he says,
they're only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve.
It is a very good monologue.
It is, yes. That was most of my notes, actually. I just wrote down his lines.
I mean, that's really all you need with the Joker.
Basically. Like, there were way too many good lines in this, And I had to look up some of them later, because, again, that's another thing with watching this movie. I wanted to just watch the goddamn movie and not have to take notes during it.
Yeah.
I will say another thing about Christian Bale in this movie. This is kind of out of time, but during his scenes as Batman, I kept forgetting that it was Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Well, sort of like Christopher Reeve. I think he did a good job of distinguishing between Batman and Bruce Wayne, where they feel like different people,
And you can kind of feel a bit more of, Christian Bale in the Bruce Wayne performance. But I think that's also partially just me thinking of American Psycho during all of the Bruce Wayne scenes.
Yeah. Which, that reminds me, I need to go pick up some videotapes. But anyway. Harvey Dent, he gets trapped in a room that's being filled with gasoline. And Rachel is trapped in some other...
Yeah, they're both kind of similar rooms where it's basically just a place full of explosive barrels.
And they can see each other, though, through like a TV screen or something.
Yeah.
Video screen. And I didn't realize, I think this is the part where I was like looking down, so I might have missed this part. This is apparently where Rachel died. And I missed that. and didn't realize until later in the movie. I'm like, oh shit, that was an important part of this.
How do you
Then again,
miss the scene?
It was just an explosion, though. So, and there's just so much going on that you kind of miss that. But
yeah,
Harvey Dent, his room, he basically gets lit on fire. You know,
yeah,
and
he gets pulled out of the room, but the explosion plus some of the gasoline he had on him causes half of his face to catch on fire.
We forgot. And then Batman shows up.
Oh yeah, and then Batman shows up, saves Harvey and not Rachel.
Yeah, because Rachel's in the other building. So Rachel dies and Harvey survives.
Yep.
Which really sucks for them because apparently she had just proposed to him.
Yeah.
In that previous scene, so fucking hell. They mentioned the MCU again.
Yeah, I think I saw it listed. It's like the major crime unit or something like that.
I think somebody says to Gordon, back at the MCU, the Joker's gone, and he says, the Joker planned to be caught. He wanted me to lock him up in the MCU. Which, again, I just thought was kind of funny just because of, you know.
Yeah.
There's like this one section, there's like a lot of these great shots, like after the explosion goes off, where you got Joker in the police car, you got Batman standing and looking at the wreckage. And it's a really emotional scene, too.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really have much dialogue here. It's just, you know, people lamenting what just happened, because it was a, you know, huge thing. You know, Harvey Dent's in the hospital, Rachel's dead, you know.
Yeah. And Batman ends up arriving where Rachel was blown up and finds Harvey's coin.
That's right, yeah, and the coin is, like, scarred on one side.
Yep. And still, you know, fine on the other side.
I mean, it's a coin. I mean, how do you destroy coin? And Bruce, he feels really guilty about what happened. But of course, Alfred comes in and comforts him a bit. Although he kind of seems to be going back and forth between encouraging Bruce and scolding him.
Yeah.
Like he's his parent, you know? Which makes sense, you know, considering their relationship. You know, his parents died and, you know, he had to take care of him. Which, again, Michael Caine does a great job at playing Alfred in this. Very well cast as Alfred. Although it's hard to screw up Alfred.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last time a little bit, how Alfred's one of the consistently good parts to any Batman interpretation.
Even, like, the bad ones, like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin,
and Batman v Superman.
Batman v Superman, yeah, Jeremy Irons was... And then they also talk about... He asks... because there was that story about the bandit and the jewels from earlier. And he asks Alfred how they caught the bandit, and he says, we burned the forest down.
Yeah.
God damn it, Batman, you burned the forest down. Yeah,
so...
really important scene here. Harvey, he wakes up in a hospital bed.
With a rather large bandage over half of his face.
Half of his face is covered, and his coin also has one side scarred.
Yep.
And apparently it's Gordon who gave Harvey the nickname Harvey
Two-Face.
Yeah, Two-Face. Because I guess he was a corrupt politician or something.
Yeah. And so Dent kind of has this weird breakdown, I guess you would call it, where he's basically facing away from Gordon. He's like, tell me what you used to call me. And he's like, Two-Face. And then, you know, Harvey turns his head, looks at him, and you see, like, half of his face is just horribly, horribly scarred.
This is off topic, but it reminded me of a Abraham Lincoln quote where he says, if I were two-faced, would I be wearing this one?
Yeah. And I was actually surprised at how well the visual effect for him held up.
I always thought it looked kind of weird, actually. I don't know if it was the eye or... It is CGI, if I remember right.
Yeah, it is. But I thought, like, you know, aesthetically it definitely fit the world.
It just looks slightly off to me, but That could, I don't know, maybe that's just me.
It might also depend on like the size of screen you watch it on or the quality you watch it in.
I was watching it on Netflix on my TV.
Yeah, I had like a DVD that I put into my PS2.
So I was basically watching like a HD version,
Yeah.
but anyway.
So maybe it looks a little weird in HD, but you know, in standard definition, it looks pretty good.
But I can cut it some slack. It was 13 years ago. But basically, he's refusing to take medications and get skin grafts.
Yeah.
And he says, "Why should I hide who I am?" So in a way, he's being honest about being two-faced, which is interesting. And I gotta say, Gary Oldman and Aaron Eckhart are amazing in this scene.
Yeah, they both do a really good job.
There's some really good acting going on right here. You know, you can just see the conflicts these two men going through, you know, just throughout this whole movie, and it's all just summed up right there, you know. I will say, though, okay, the CGI on Two-Face in this, I think looks a hell of a lot better than whatever the fuck they were doing with Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever.
Yeah.
Where he looks like Purple Nixon or something.
Yeah. Every time that I see Two-Face in this movie, like, part of me thinks back to the Tommy Lee Jones Two-Face, and I'm just so depressed.
It's a huge relief seeing a good depiction of Two-Face in this movie. And we get another very famous scene. The Joker has a huge pile of money, and he pours gasoline on it and burns his half, because the other half is for the mobsters.
And like he says, it's not about the money. It's about sending a message.
Everything burns. I was surprised they had a callback to this scene later in the movie. The guy that tried blackmailing Bruce earlier.
Yeah, he shows up on TV, and he's like, I'm going to tell everyone who the Batman is so I can save the city.
But then the Joker calls in and he threatens to kill him.
Yeah.
That guy's face, when he like looks terrified in this scene, it looks exactly the same as the face he made earlier in the movie, too. He has the same expression to Morgan Freeman calling him out and the Joker threatening to kill him.
Who knows, maybe Morgan Freeman is the bigger threat all along.
I mean, Morgan Freeman is God, so... Anyway.
And I believe it's on this same news program that he announces that he plans to blow up a hospital.
Yeah, he goes to a hospital disguised as a nurse to get Harvey Dent. And this is another scene where you get some of his motivations or lack thereof.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing how the Joker is so interesting in this movie, purely because he just doesn't have motivations, and he knows it.
There's no real motivation, there's no backstory driving him, he's just doing it.
You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. You know, I just do things.
And he brings up a couple of different points about how, you know, as long as things are going to plan, no one freaks out. No one bats an eye. The second, something goes against the plan,
well, then everyone loses their minds.
And so he's confronting Two-Face. I guess he's still Harvey at this point. He's confronting Harvey.
Yeah, he basically turns him into Two-Face in this.
Yeah.
Scene. He talks about how he I guess he does kind of reveal some motivations. He does things to, like, show how pathetic society is.
Yeah.
Which, that's a great motivation. Very noble cause there.
And so he gives Harvey a gun and tells him basically to kill him. To which Harvey responds by saying he's going to flip his coin. If it's heads, he lives. And if it's the scratched out heads, he dies.
And then the Joker, he like indicates, he's enjoying this.
Yeah, he's like, okay, that's fair.
He takes a lot of sick pleasure in the fact that he's putting people in danger, and he's also constantly putting himself in danger. Yeah. If he had a list of things he gave a fuck about, it would just be a blank list, like a blank sheet of paper.
And so, I don't think we see the outcome of the coin flip, but it's pretty obvious what it is since the Joker is alive.
Although there is an interesting line he has here where he says, when he gives Harvey the gun, he says,
introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. Oh, and you know the thing about chaos? It's fear.
Because basically he's emo. He's like, society is bad, and I'm gonna show you how bad it is by doing things myself. Oh, wait a minute.
And so
that's kind of
then
a catch-22 right there.
Yeah. Then we get a pretty fun scene where Joker's just trying to walk out of the hospital and he starts blowing it up. And then at one point the explosives aren't going off, so he's like playing with the button, hitting it several times until like the final few charges go off, just like collapsing the hospital.
Yeah, because there's like a delay or something.
Yeah. And he ends up climbing back into another school bus and driving off.
A lot of school buses in this movie.
Yeah. A lot of school buses used by the villain in this movie.
Yeah. Is that some kind of like commentary? Maybe. Oh god.
Maybe that's his backstory.
Here's another weird fan theory. He's a school teacher.
I was about to say he's a frustrated kindergarten teacher. He got so fed up. Maybe that's how he got the scars. There was a kid running around with scissors.
Don, we end it right here. I don't think we're gonna top that.
That's it. That's the best we got.
No, we can continue, but that was, oh man. I love that, though. That's so funny. He, like, saw how bad society was because of how their kids act.
This is a better backstory than the actual Joker movie.
Oh yeah, where everybody's mean to him and he becomes depressed and kills some people.
It's all about society.
So, Harvey Dent was in the hospital this whole time. That's the thing. He somehow survived the hospital explosion.
Who knows? Maybe he jumped out the window before it all blew up. Even though he was like on the 3rd or 4th floor or something.
Maybe he let him out after he didn't kill him, but anyway.
Probably
he goes to this bar and flips a coin. It lands on the scarred side and he kills him. So basically he's Anton Chigurh now.
Yeah.
From No Country for Old Men. He's just been corrupted, by the Joker. Because that's, again, he's trying to prove, I can take the best people and just turn them into the worst monsters. Yeah. I know he has some line later on kind of like that. And then Batman shows up. It's revealed that Batman put microphones and sonar equipment in every phone in Gotham.
How did he do so? Okay,
but you know what this means? It means he's basically the NSA.
Yeah, but let's think about this for a second. So this is assuming that either Bruce Wayne has access to every single iPhone, every single Android sold in Gotham, or that smartphone brand... Was this before smartphones were invented?
I don't know. It also just proves that he's rich and can do whatever the fuck he wants.
So I guess that means that somewhere along the line, Bruce Wayne owns a company that either it would have to be, he owns a company that manufactures smartphones specifically for the people in Gotham so that he can potentially spy on them and use it as a weird sonar equipment thing.
Bruce Wayne's kind of a dick. But Morgan Freeman, he finds out about this and he is not happy.
Yeah, he's not very comfortable with the idea that Batman can just spy on anyone in Gotham.
And he basically hands in his resignation.
Yeah.
He tells him he's going to resign after this is over. But basically what Batman's trying to do with this equipment, he's trying to find where the Joker is,
Yeah.
So Harvey kidnaps Eric Roberts in a limo. I think he's in a limo.
Yeah. It's either a limo or like a cab or something that's being driven by one of his men.
He flips the coin and spares Eric Roberts, but there's a twist here. He flips the coin to determine whether he kills the driver, and he does.
Yep.
And Eric Roberts dies.
Can I just say that there's something that I really like about this version of Two-Face that I hated about Two-Face in Batman Forever?
He makes actual decisions.
Yeah, based off of the coin flip. It's because do you remember in Batman Forever at one point, Two-Face just keeps flipping the coin trying to get to the side where he kills him? It's like that defeats the purpose of the character being driven by the flip of the coin. But they actually have that in this movie, which is just so wonderful, and it pays off.
It shows he's conflicted. He definitely seems more like a villain, though, during the end of this. He does not seem like a good guy at this point in the movie. Because, again, he's working for the Joker. It's just, how far is he going to get?
Yeah. And you know what honestly could be an interesting premise for a Batman film going off of that? Having one where Batman almost has to team up with Two-Face.
That
like
would,
Two-Face,
that would be interesting.
Like Two-Face repeatedly getting heads and having to do good. And then, obviously at the end, he would start to get more and more tails, which would bring him back into the realm of being an antagonist. But him working together with Batman in some capacity isn't completely out of the table based off of his own rule set.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
Very difficult to pull off, believably, but...
But it would be really interesting. It would be a good way to explore his two faces, I guess.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the Joker, he has these two boats rigged with explosives.
One boat is full of just, normal citizens of Gotham.
Civilians.
And then the other one is filled with criminals.
Criminals, yeah. And he put the detonators for the other boat in both of them.
Yep.
So then if one of them presses the button, that boat gets to live, but the other one blows up. And if neither of them do it, he'll just blow up both of the boats. It's basically a really fucked up social experiment,
Yeah.
It's like a literal version of the trolley example.
I was thinking kind of like the prisoner's dilemma.
One of them, the boat with the civilians, I think, they have a vote over what to do.
Yep.
Or they could just flip a coin, go with what Two-Face does.
While the prisoner boat is a bit more calm and collected about things, they're not doing a vote at all from what I remember.
Yeah, one of them throws it out the window.
Yeah, he basically tells the guy who has the detonator,
I'm going to do what you should have done 10 minutes ago, and throws it out.
Yeah. Which is something that I really like, that, this group, it shows that there is humanity in Gotham. And that, people aren't all horrible like the Joker believes.
And how long are those prisoners on screen for? 5 minutes?
Yeah, not very long. And their scenes are actually kind of spread out a little bit,
they're more sympathetic than the prisoners in Alien 3. So, then Batman shows up.
Yep, as he does.
He figures out where the Joker's goons are by spying on everybody, and then takes them out. And the Joker himself is there, so he has a fight with the Joker up on top of the building. And the Joker's waiting for the fireworks to go off, the explosion.
And after nothing explodes, he tries reaching
we get one of my favorite lines where he says,
"And here we go."
Which I'm considering putting that at the beginning of every podcast we do now. We just write
at the very least this one.
This one definitely I'll do that. Andy Griffith at the end, the Joker at the beginning.
Basically the same character.
The same Lonesome Rhodes kind of is like the Joker a little bit.
How come we didn't get Andy Griffith as the Joker? Missed opportunity.
He could have done that on the 60s show, I guess.
Yeah.
But he knocks the Joker off the building. There's this one part I thought was kind of funny. He's about to tell the story of how he got the scars. He says, "You know how I got these scars?" And then Batman says, "No, but I know how you got these," and knocks him off.
Yeah.
That was good.
And then he kind of just ties his leg around with like a grappling hook and just leaves him dangling there.
Yeah. You just couldn't let me go, could you?
Which, that is something that's kind of interesting to think about because, you know, if you remember back in Batman 1989, the Joker died after being pushed off of a building. Like, I think his leg was tied to a gargoyle.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's almost like a callback to that in a way.
It kind of is.
Except this time, Batman is tethering the Joker to the building to save him.
Yeah. And then the Joker, he's basically just hanging there, tormenting him. You know, he's like saying, "You're just too much fun. I think you and I are destined to do this forever." Which again, it's another example of Batman the optimist versus a very cynical villain.
Yeah.
Because the Joker in this, he likes to think he doesn't have a moral code, but he has a very cynical worldview, for one thing. He just thinks, like, you know, when the chips are down, these people will just eat each other. And they end up proving him wrong, you know? Maybe people aren't so bad after all.
But he also reveals that wasn't entirely his goal all along. He was also interested in corrupting Harvey Dent, who I think he calls the city's White Knight.
Yeah. Which, that is interesting that, on one hand, one of his plots failed, but his bigger plot ended up succeeding.
Yeah.
Because he basically corrupted Harvey Dent. I mean, there's no coming back from that, you know?
Yeah.
Once your face is scarred, you can't really unscar it. Yeah. Especially if you don't take medications or get skin grafts, which Harvey refused to do. And he says, one of my favorite lines in this, "Madness is like gravity. All it takes is a little push." Very iconic line right there. I love it. And he does his laugh, too, you know?
Yeah.
Isn't he, like, hanging upside down this whole time?
Yeah, well, I think when he does the laugh, he's falling, and then he gets, like, tugged back up because he was tied, you know, to the building.
Such a great scene. Then we get a confrontation between Gordon and Harvey Dent, which is another scene where you get to see some great acting from Aaron Eckhart and Gary Oldman.
Because Two-Face takes Gordon's family hostage.
And he threatens to kill his son.
Yep.
And then Batman shows up.
Yeah, as he does.
It's kind of funny that this could almost just be a movie, and Batman doesn't even have to be in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that was the premise of Gotham. But yeah, with this especially, like, things, a lot of times they move on.
Because Batman doesn't really succeed all that much in this movie.
No, not really. Because, I mean, when you think about it, he didn't really stop the boats from being blown up. That was the people on the boats for the most part.
He doesn't save Rachel.
Nope.
Or Harvey.
I guess he saves Gordon's kid at the end.
Two-Face shoots Batman, which, that's kind of a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah, that doesn't go well for most people.
That's like using tanks against Godzilla. It's just not, it's never gonna work. And basically his, Gordon's son survives, but Harvey ends up getting killed here.
Yep, he falls off of a building, I believe.
Dies from the fall. He gets a Disney villain death. And Batman, he accepts responsibility for the deaths, and this was an interesting thing here. He tells Gordon he's gonna have to hunt after him.
Yeah. And so what he basically does is he sets himself up as a villain for Gotham.
Yeah.
In order, for everyone to still believe that Harvey this whole time was a true hero.
Yep, he wants to make Harvey into a martyr, essentially.
Yep.
And also another thing about the ending of this movie, everybody who trusted Batman in this movie is either dead or has turned on him at this point.
Yeah.
And Gordon, he gives a monologue to his son about how he's not the hero we deserve, but the hero we needed, something like that.
Yep, it's not the hero.
He says he's not the hero they need right now.
Yep.
Yeah. And he calls him a Dark Knight, which is interesting, because Harvey was called the White Knight earlier.
Yep. And so it's showing that Harvey was the good that the city had to look up to, while Batman was kind of representative of the underlying problems.
Yeah.
Like the crime and corruption that spread throughout Gotham.
And that's the ending of the movie. And it ends on a very
Kind of
dramatic note,
Yeah.
although there is a little hint of things are going to get better. Sort of like the ending of The Empire Strikes Back a little bit. In a way.
It is kind of that, like, we didn't win in the end, but there's still hope. We can still move forward.
We lost the battle, but we didn't lose the war yet.
Exactly.
Basically, yeah. And honestly, okay, when it ended, honestly, I wanted to put the next one on immediately.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch the next one, like, immediately, because I was, like, really hyped to see, to rewatch Dark Knight Rises again, because I think this movie's great, actually.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie.
This one is fantastic. Definitely worth watching.
I guess I said it in the Batman Begins podcast, but I still think this is the best Batman movie.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the performances were excellent all across the board.
With especially Heath Ledger's being the standout performance.
The standouts for me were Heath Ledger and also Aaron Eckhart.
Yep.
I feel like, when people talk about this movie, they mostly talk about the Joker. But I think Aaron Eckhart is almost as good, actually, in this.
He does a great job at doing the transition from the, good guy Harvey to the, slightly confused Harvey to then the villain Two-Face.
It's a really good, story, like, character arc he goes through. And it really disappoints me. There is, maybe the one problem I have with this movie is that Two-Face dies almost immediately.
Yeah.
Because I would have loved to have seen more movies with Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face, because he does a really good job in the screen time he's given.
Yeah.
It's by far the best live-action depiction of the character.
Yeah, there's not too much to compare him to, though.
Just Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah. I mean, I really wish that we would have gotten the Billy D. Williams version.
I would have, that would have been interesting. And it would have been interesting also to see a movie where Two-Face teams up with the Joker more.
Yeah.
But I guess Nolan, he just liked to limit his villains to just one movie each.
Yeah.
Essentially, because, I think Dark Knight, again, I said it's the best Batman movie. The dialogue's very quotable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of quotable lines. Most of my notes are just this line. Like, just a bunch of lines, The story got off to a bit of a rocky start, but as it went along, things started to pay off. Batman Begins was kind of like that a little bit too.
Yeah.
Where the beginning's kind of just like...
It's slow and it does a lot of build up for the rest of the...
It's very exposition heavy at the beginning, but once it gets going, goddamn, does it get going.
Yeah. Especially with, like, all of the Joker scenes, like, around the middle.
Yeah, The action scenes, I think, are great. Lots of character development in this, too. They went a darker route with this one.
Yeah.
That I think definitely paid off. You get, like, a lot of emotional moments, a lot of psychological stuff going on with the characters. And like I said, you reach the end of this movie and you immediately want to see the next one.
Yeah, you're ready.
On such a great cliffhanger.
Yeah, you're definitely ready to see more after it.
Although I will say, Batman doesn't get as much to do as he does in Batman Begins. Batman Begins, it felt like the entire movie is basically about Batman, whereas this one is more about the villains.
Yeah. I think, like you said, it almost feels like Harvey Dent is supposed to be the main character for most of the film.
This movie kind of gets away with not focusing on Batman as much, though, because the villains are that strong in this, because a hero really is only as interesting as the villains they're going up against. And this movie has really good villains,
Yeah.
The Joker's great, Two-Face. I do think Heath Ledger is my favorite depiction of the Joker. from what I've seen.
Because, for as great as, like Mark Hamill and Jack Nicholson were, I just feel like he nails it, especially within the context of his own story.
It's also such a different portrayal, too.
Yeah.
It's a complete, reinvention of the character. Because he kind of plays him as this, really disturbed terrorist.
Yeah.
He just has weird ideas about how society should be run, namely into the ground. And it's such a great performance because, again, you do not recognize Heath Ledger. For what, never for a moment in the movie do you think that's Heath Ledger playing the Joker. No, you watch him and you go, that's the Joker. Yeah.
Just like this complete force of chaos.
Because before this, he'd done Brokeback Mountain and The Patriot, and Which, to be fair, he's really good in those movies, but there's no indication that he can do this.
Yeah.
And
I think didn't Christopher Nolan pick him based off of his performance in Brokeback Mountain?
He might have. He's really good in Brokeback Mountain, to be fair. It's just, you don't watch him in that movie and think, the Joker.
This guy's perfect for the Joker.
He's a guy I never would have even thought to cast in the part, and yet he completely knocked it out of the park,
Yeah.
It's one of the, generally when people talk about, best movie villains,
he's on the list for he's on the list for a reason.
Yeah. Because that's another thing. For a while, Jack Nicholson was, the definitive Joker for a lot of people, and then after this movie came out, a lot of people started thinking this is definitive. Hopefully, we never get the day where Jared Leto is considered the definitive Joker, because good God, that was terrible.
I have never watched Suicide Squad, which, to my knowledge, is the one movie that has the most Jared Leto Joker screen time, except for the weird post-apocalypse thing that Zack Snyder's Justice League does. But the little that I've seen of his performance, it feels like he wants to desperately be Heath Ledger.
Jared Leto wants to be Jared Leto. Well, of course he does. And I'm not even a person who I don't even hate Jared Leto either, but he's awful in that movie.
Yeah. I also feel like they did a great job with just the Joker's design in this movie. It definitely fits with the whole, grounded aesthetic.
His costume and, the makeup. Just the fact his makeup just looks so smeared on, it's like he barely even applied it.
Yeah.
He's just a mess. He looks like a mess. And again, it just goes to show he just doesn't give a shit, He doesn't have a plan. He just does things.
Exactly.
Which, again, also makes him really unpredictable, too. You just never know what he's going to do next. And that, again, just makes him all the more terrifying. You don't know where he came from, where he's going to go, what he's going to do. And fuck, how do you fight that?
Yeah.
So, on to the trivia. The Dark Knight, of course, got great reviews, generally listed as one of the best superhero movies ever made. And it's also the highest rated movie on IMDb that we've done so far.
Really?
It's the third highest rated
movie. Are you
movie
telling me?
IMDb with a 9.1 out of 10.
Are you telling me this rated higher than Superman 4?
Not quite, no. The only two movies above it are The Godfather and The Shawshank Redemption.
Really?
Yep. Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars.
Okay, good.
He especially liked Aaron Eckhart's performance. And also praised Heath Ledger's performance, of course. Surprisingly, Rex Reed liked this one.
Who's Rex Reed?
He was the guy that called people who liked Batman Begins morons.
Oh, okay. Okay, that lad.
And also a guy who likes making fun of how actors look in his reviews, among other terrible shit, but I'm not going to get into that. He called this movie insurmountable fun. Which...
Yeah. There's fun moments, I'd say.
Yeah. One person who didn't like it, however...
Oh no. Is it Mr. Batman Forever is the greatest comic book movie?
I don't actually know if he thinks Batman Forever is the best comic book movie, but he did like Batman Forever. Leonard Maltin.
Okay.
He gave it 2 out of 4 stars.
And what did he give Batman Forever again?
3 out of 4 stars.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Leonard, you're still on the official enemies list.
I'll read his review. A Batman story for the terrorist era. This is doomsday dark and palpably real. It's also incredibly long. Ledger is a vivid Joker, but his character is so sick it's difficult to derive any pleasure from watching him.
Maybe that's the point, Mr. Leonard.
So again, not as good as Batman Forever, according to this guy.
I want to know what movies he considers to be worse than Batman Forever, and what movies he considers to be better than Batman Forever.
He does think Taxi Driver is worse than Batman Forever, apparently.
Are you serious?
He gave Taxi Driver 2 stars.
What is wrong with this man? Like, honestly.
We could do an episode where I could just go through some of his reviews and we could make fun of him, sort of like the end of
Just
that
the whole
Mr.
time
Science.
us roasting this guy. Is he even still alive?
He is, yeah. You asked that in the other in the Batman Begins.
I feel like I ask that every time because I'm still in disbelief that a man with these wrong of opinions can be alive.
I should check though and see if we killed him or not.
No, he's still alive. He's 71.
That'd be so funny though if he like died the day after we recorded this. So he's still on your enemies list, I see.
Yeah, still on the enemies list.
Okay. We can do a Leonard Maltin episode. A Rex Reed episode would be interesting as well, just to see how much of a terrible person he is. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, the movie was nominated for 8 Oscars.
Okay.
A lot of people were mad that it wasn't a Best Picture nominee.
That is a little surprising to me.
It wasn't until Black Panther that a superhero movie got nominated for Best Picture.
Huh.
It won 2. Best Supporting Actor for Heath Ledger.
Yep.
And this marks the second time an actor has won a posthumous Oscar, the first time being Peter Finch for Network. Also a great performance. It also won for Best Sound Editing.
Yeah, I can see that.
It was not nominated for... Fuck me. I misread it. It was nominated for, but did not win, Best Cinematography.
Yeah? What did it lose to?
Lost to Slumdog Millionaire.
Okay.
Best Editing, it lost to Slumdog Millionaire. Best Art Direction, which it lost to The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Really?
Best Makeup, which it also lost to The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. That makes sense, actually.
Really? Okay, I guess it's the old baby man.
Yeah. That does make sense, yeah. Best Sound Mixing lost to Slumdog Millionaire. And Best Visual Effects, which it lost to Curious Case of Benjamin Button. God damn it.
Actually, that weird cartoon show that was on Cartoon Network
Mad
for a while.
TV. That was a Mad TV
Yeah.
sketch. You told me.
Yeah. The Curious Case of Benjamin Batman. Where the whole plot is that it's basically The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, but he's also Batman.
He turns into a baby and fights the Joker. Oh, man. Ledger also won a Golden Globe for his performance. It was nominated for a lot of Saturn Awards, winning for Best Action, Best Adventure or Thriller Film, Best Writing, Best Supporting Actor for Heath Ledger, Best Music, and Best Special Effects. We didn't really talk about the music in this.
The music's really good.
It kind of reuses some of the same motifs from Batman Begins, though.
Yeah.
But it's good, though. It is good.
Another good Hans Zimmer soundtrack.
Now we get to the best part. Alternate casting
Alternate
choices.
castings.
Other actors that were considered for the Joker
Oh, no.
included Paul Bettany.
Yeah, I knew about that one. He probably would have done okay. But
I feel like it would have been probably would have been more understated.
yeah. Yeah.
Which probably still could have been creepy. I think that could work, maybe.
Yeah.
Adrian Brody.
I'm trying to remember what else has he been in.
He was in The Pianist. He was in the remake of King Kong. Which, with him, I mean, you never know. You know, I mean, they cast Heath Ledger, and that's a person I wouldn't expect, so maybe,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Steve Carell.
I'm not gonna lie. For as awful as a casting choice that sounds, I would have loved to see that.
It would be
purely
funny.
on the basis that it would have been such a huge departure from Steve Carell's other work.
He did, there was one movie I know where he played this, like, really creepy character in Foxcatcher, so who knows.
Did he do a good job with it?
He was pretty good in it, yeah.
Huh.
So he has a little bit more range than people might think, you know, because most people think of him as Michael Scarn.
Yeah.
Michael Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm just trying to imagine.
There's that one episode of The Office where Creed and Kevin both
dress up as the Joker for
Yeah.
Halloween.
Which I'd love to see a movie of Creed as the Joker.
Yeah.
I've been involved in a number of cults, both as a leader and as a follower. Make more money as a leader, but you have more fun as a follower.
You have more fun as a follower.
Yeah. And a returning casting choice, Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
Yep.
Again, I think he would have been an entertaining Joker. Not necessarily right, I think, for this film.
was around the time he was doing darker roles, actually.
That's true. Was this about the time he did that?
1 Hour Photo. He did. He was in that Christopher Nolan movie Insomnia, which is a remake of a Norwegian movie. So he could do creepy parts, you know.
Yeah.
So I would have been interested to see that, but obviously that didn't happen, you know. Which, and Heath Ledger, legendary, iconic performance. So
yeah, I still think Heath Ledger is definitely the correct choice for this movie.
But it does make you wonder what if.
Yeah.
Some other actors considered for the part of Harvey Dent included Liev Schreiber, who he was in some of the X-Men movies, which I don't know. Ryan Phillippe.
Okay.
I need to remind myself who that is, actually.
Yeah, I don't think I recognize. Let me see. He was in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Okay.
He was on WWE Raw. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know about Ryan Phillippe, but again, you never know. Josh Lucas, which I don't know.
Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo.
That would have been interesting. Again, I still feel like, you know, Eckert was definitely the best choice for the role.
And Matt Damon was also considered.
Huh.
I think he was still doing the Bourne movies at the time, I think.
Yeah. I don't know how... he probably could have done a good enough job as Harvey.
It's hard to, like, imagine just because of how good Aaron Eckhart did, you know, just like...
Yeah.
Maybe if we saw, like, audition tapes or something, because you never know. Yeah. Apparently, Katie Holmes was planning to be in this movie.
Really?
But she turned it down to do a different movie called Mad Money. which obviously is just as popular and famous as The Dark Knight. I've never even heard of this movie.
I'm looking at the poster, and it's something. It's definitely something.
I read one review, though, on like the Wikipedia page, and it said that Holmes' presence feels like an afterthought.
I'm reading something else on it. It says the film scored a 3rd place in the New York Post's top 10 worst movies of 2008.
A list which Dark Knight was nowhere near. I also didn't realize until doing a bit of reading that Anthony Michael Hall is in this movie.
Yeah?
He plays a news reporter. And apparently one of the singers from Blink-182 had a cameo in this.
Really?
In like a crowd scene.
Huh.
Country singer Dwight Yoakam was asked to be in it, but he turned it down to focus on recording his album Dwight Sings Buck. Amazing. Oh, man.
So I know there were, I think, rumors that DiCaprio was going to play the Joker at one point.
That would have been really cool, actually. I could see that.
It'd also be interesting if that happened and Matt Damon got to be Harvey, I feel.
Yeah. Reunion of some of the Departed stars.
Yeah.
Just get Jack Nicholson as, like, in it, and then you would have, like...
Yeah.
The movie was also selected for preservation by the American Film Institute in 2020 as a movie that was culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The only other superhero movie to get this honor was Superman the movie.
Really?
And we've done podcasts on both of them.
Yeah.
In preparation for his role as the Joker, Heath Ledger hid away in a motel room for about 6 weeks. During this extended stay of seclusion, Ledger delved deep into the psychology of the character. He devoted himself to developing the Joker's every tick, namely the voice and the laugh. Ledger's interpretation of the Joker's appearance was primarily based on the chaotic, disheveled look of punk rocker Sid Vicious, combined with the psychotic mannerisms of Malcolm McDowell's character, Alex DeLarge from Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange. Basically, he wanted to make his character really creepy and really crazy.
Yeah. He did a good job.
He did, yeah. Before the movie was released, Heath Ledger died in January 2008, and this ended up being his last completed film role. In his final movie, Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, the movie was completed by having his character turn into other actors upon entering the Imaginarium, so they found a loophole around that. Rumors abounded that playing the intense role had taken its toll on Ledger's mental state, causing him to become depressed and take a wrong combination of drugs as a result. However, his family has since put such rumors to rest by stating that far from being depressed, he had a lot of fun playing the role.
I've actually heard that too. I think there was some interviews with some of the cast members, and a lot of people talked about how he was just a lovely person and having the time of his life.
Yeah. Ledger did suffer from insomnia throughout his life and would often take sleeping pills together with other prescription drugs. And it was an overdose. That was what killed him. Which really sucks. You know, it would have been interesting to see him come back in another movie as the character.
If I remember correctly, there was some other drafts for the third movie where he was going to reprise. It's either a cameo or there was one script where the Riddler was set to be the main villain, and there was going to be a team up between Joker and the Riddler.
I was thinking he'd do like a Hannibal Lecter or something, and just like he's in that jail cell and Batman interrogates him while he's trying to mess with his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the documentary, I Am Heath Ledger, Heath Ledger's vocal coach on this movie stated that Heath had to continuously lick his lips due to his prosthetic coming off whenever he spoke, and he eventually made this a tick of the character as he was filming, which he does do that a lot.
Yeah. I honestly didn't notice that until I read that fact at one point, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's just
though in the movie.
Yeah, he's just constantly licking his lips, or I guess the edges of his mouth.
Also, something I didn't notice is that there are no opening credits or titles.
Yeah,
it's the same as Batman Begins. Like, I read the trivia, and then I'm like, oh wow, really? Yeah, that is it for trivia, unless you have something else.
No, I don't really think I have anything else to add.
I am exhausted. So next time we'll be looking at
The Dark Knight Rises.
Yep, we'll see if this trilogy comes to a good close.
Let's hope. I've still not seen the movie.
It's been a while. I don't remember. That's all, folks.
Yep, I guess until next time, roll the Andy Griffith clip.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.